Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Candidates night for the Town Council of Chevy Chase View elections. My name is Mike Planamira, and I'm on the nominating committee along with Stacy Kuzma and Don Forsberg. And we're fortunate tonight to have three candidates running for two positions on the council. As everyone may know, if we just have the number of candidates that are to fill the slots, we don't have an election. And this year we do have, fortunate to have three good candidates for two positions. Tommy George and Artie Kamali.
Hi.
And unfortunately, Paula Fudge, who's the current chair of the council, was not able to make it tonight. But we have a lot of questions to go with Tommy and Artie. I just want to remind everyone that the election is next Thursday, May 12th. And there's in-person voting between 7 and 9 here at the church. If you can't make it then, there's also absentee ballots. You can get them from the election judges, who are George Monk and Lucy Swartz, and those are available until 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 11th. Just to give you an idea of the format, we're going to have the candidates introduce themselves and then ask a series of questions that they'll respond to. And at the end, they'll give a little summary. So we're trying to keep it informal. And if anyone has questions who are online, feel free to submit them through the chat feature. And those here in attendance in person can give questions to Julie and Stacy. So with that, Tommy, why don't you just give a little bio background introduction and take your time and give you a couple minutes for that.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike. So for those of you I haven't met, my name is Tommy George. I live on Gartrell Place. I've been a resident of the town for nearly 5 years now. I've been a lifelong resident of Montgomery County. Grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, just on the other side of Rockville Pike in the Maplewood neighborhood, the house in which my parents still reside today. I attended St. Jane de Chantal, Gonzaga College High School, and spent 4 years in Philadelphia at St. Joseph's University, where I earned an undergraduate degree in finance. Upon returning to the area after my undergrad, I did my MBA at University of Maryland Global Campus. In 2015, I founded a small cybersecurity services company called Breakpoint Labs that provides full spectrum cybersecurity services to government, so federal, state, and local government clients, as well as a commercial customer base. So I supported, diverse, set of clients and representing their interests and equities in and through cyberspace. So, why the council? Why interest in serving the town as a potential member of the council? Put simply, I've been on the receiving end of the services that the town offers for nearly 5 years. I've come to experience and appreciate the services that the town provides to its residents. I'm a true believer in the grassroots nature of local government and how that benefits the town residents. I think topics or issues that are of particular interest to me, or where I believe I can make a meaningful contribution to the community that come to mind are first being critical infrastructure. The systems that we depend on to provide the vital services to the community. The next one is IT modernization, just given some of my background and experience in cybersecurity, and then budget management, having run a P&L organization, a P&L company for about 6.5 years now. I think I can contribute to the town in those ways. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Artie?
Yes. Hello, residents of Chevy Chase View. My name is Artie Kamali. I live on Cedar Lane with my fiance, Anna. I'm an attorney. I've lived in Maryland my entire life. As I mentioned in my bio, I work for our local state senator, Jeff Waltreicher. While I have a great deal of respect for Jeff Waltreicher, I want to make it clear that my candidacy here is not an extension of his campaign. If I were so lucky to be elected council member, my primary job would be advocating for the residents of Chevy Chase View. And the residents of Chevy Chase View have different interests than my boss's district as a whole, and I think that's important to put out there. In that capacity, I've done dozens of site visits on matters of interest to the community, stormwater management and traffic safety, including here in Chevy Chase View. I've attended a few in that capacity. I'm running for the council because for those three reasons. Number one, traffic safety. I don't think people should get in a high stakes game of Frogger to cross Connecticut Avenue. Number two, I believe our stormwater management needs an update. They're outdated systems. They were built half a century ago, if not more, and they're not meant to handle the types of storms that we currently face right now. And finally, Thrive Montgomery. I want to make sure that Chevy Chase View has its interests protected as the county council comes up with the master plan. And that is my introductory statement. Thank you.
Thanks, Artie. I mean, a lot of the questions we have, I think we'll touch on some of the things you've already covered, but feel free to go into more depth on it. The first question we have is, what do you think is the most pressing or maybe the most important issue the town is facing today, and how would you recommend addressing it? Tommy, why don't we start with you on this one?
Okay, excellent. So I mentioned it from the intro, you said, Mike, but infrastructure, right? And more particularly critical infrastructure. So I know that in and of itself is a very broad area. But I do a lot of, like I said, a lot of work with the government, in particular Department of Homeland Security. So when they talk about critical infrastructure, they bin that into 16 critical infrastructure sectors. So think everything from water and wastewater to IT, telecommunications, to facilities, to power, right? So again, looking at those sectors and the role of the town council in providing services to the residents, those underlying systems. So obviously the wastewater management committee has done a ton of work with respect to what would fall into the water and wastewater critical infrastructure sector. So that is obviously a very important issue and has dependencies upon it. But a broader view, there's even things like the town records and the role of the council and subsequently the town manager in managing the official records for the town. So those are things within the IT and telecommunications sector, and even looking at things like ransomware and what faces those records and their continuity and backup and withstanding. So it's tough to pick one issue. I kind of frame it within critical infrastructure and all of those systems. I think there's a lot of interest in motivation around Stormwater Management Committee, but there's other things as well, like the records and resiliency of those systems. So I think ultimately I kind of frame my response here, the resiliency, continuity of those infrastructures and underlying systems in continuing the services to residents is of the utmost importance.
Great, thank you, Tom. Artie?
I would reiterate a lot of what Tommy said. Obviously, I'm not as versed on the cyber aspect of infrastructure, but again, the stormwater management and traffic safety. So we have a major highway cutting through our neighborhood. We have Cedar Lane on the other end, which is getting an extension on the other end. Surely is going to lead to higher traffic coming through our neighborhood. And I know I don't have kids yet, but I know kids have a lot of room to run around and play. And, I don't want parents to be worried that their kids can't walk down the street without someone late for work speeding through our neighborhood. Or, I'm sure there are pockets of the community. I looked at the rain map, where the flooding is. And even though they're affected today, it very well may spread to the rest of the community. Certainly it depends on your elevation, but our systems are not meant to handle, well, they were designed to handle like once in a 10-year storm, and we're getting once in a 100-year storm every so often now, much more often than the statistics would suggest. So, yeah, protecting our property from water and traffic safety. Those are, I guess they all go back to infrastructure.
Great, thanks. I know you both have kind of touched on this, but what would be the assets that you bring to the town council that you think you could contribute most based on your skill sets? I know you've spoken about some of them already, but just directly to that question, what would you pick as the top couple of things? Artie, why don't we start with you on this?
Sure. So I've worked in the state legislature for 7 years now, and I have made a wealth of contacts at the state, county, and local level. I've seen how the sausage is made. It's not pretty at times, but I can be open and frank with the council on the status of bills that may interest them or their likelihood to pass. Yeah, just generally, I guess that would be my main asset to the council is my experience in state government, and most of which can probably translate into municipal government.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, so I think that what comes to mind for me is, I mentioned it briefly, but the IT modernization aspects of this, and that it mentioned the records previously, but think about IT modernization from the perspective of being able to connect with residents, right? And the town does a great job today with what is email-based correspondence largely to reach town residents. I think that obviously the technology landscape is quickly moving, and the council has an obligation. I'm sure there's been discussion to date, but harnessing technology to help connect with residents, right? And the fundamental communications to and from residents on the work of the town. So think even a simple message system, right? Text messages for certain updates, or social media and a potential, younger population and town residents, and just thinking about how IT can underpin strengthening the communications between the council and its residents, I think could have a significant impact, not to mention how those communication channels can be critical in the event of an emergency or other instances arising that affect all town members. So.
We've touched on the stormwater management issue, and one of the questions we have is you all may be aware that the Stormwater Management Committee issued a report, and the question was whether you had read the report, and if so, whether you agree with its recommendations. And even if you haven't read the report, do you believe, and it sounds like you do, that the excessive stormwater flows from storms is a big issue for the town, and what do you think we can be doing about it, including ideas like green infrastructure, things like that? So feel free to expound on that. Tommy, why don't we start with you on that one?
Yep, sounds good. So I guess to start, I lived in the town in September of 2020 when those storms occurred. I remember it vividly. Certainly well aware of the formation of the Stormwater Management Committee and the report that they issued last July. I think it was 17 recommendations, ranked in order of priority from urgent to high to other recommendations. I think that the work of the town council essentially immediately to account for stormwater management aspects within building permits and regulations, to do that virtually immediately was excellent. I think the report as a whole was great, and that some of those efforts are obviously still underway, from potentially contracting and engineering support to look at the town. I guess what something that isn't, publicly available or out there today. From the residents' perspective, what I think would come from the Stormwater Management Committee and or the town council is really education and awareness, right? And commoditizing residents' understanding of what they can be doing to support the problem. Right, to support addressing the problem, right, to have answers. So things from the increased green infrastructure to permeable surfaces, and look at the time of year we're in right now, right, as we're each doing our spring projects. What can we be doing to support the town as a whole? And being better prepared, not if, but when that next storm arises. So certainly support the work of the town council. Thus far, the work of the Stormwater Management Committee, the recommendations are all spot on. I think education and awareness and increasing the scope of contributors to addressing the problem is where what I would like to see happen from here.
Artie?
To answer your question, I have not read the report in full, although I have read the minutes of all of the Stormwater Management Committee's meetings, all 20 of them. I don't know, 15. I don't know how many there were. So I'm familiar with what their recommendations probably were in this final report, but as I'm sure they're aware, it's a nuanced issue. You change something up the street, it's going to have effects a mile down the road. So really, I guess the solution, I would think, is investment in our infrastructure, forward thinking. And, we have a decent chunk of money coming from the American Rescue Plan. So maybe getting some of that into stormwater management, updating the culverts and the pipes and the series of things that were planned 50 plus years ago that aren't meeting our needs today. So that would be my answer, I guess. Yes, I'm familiar with the issues in the report. I haven't read the report in full, but.
The other big issue, I think, in the town that you've both kind of touched on are safety issues. And I'd like to start with the Connecticut Avenue corridor, which has always been an issue from way back with speed cameras, and a lot of serious accidents have occurred on Connecticut Avenue in our town. And I'd like to hear from each of you about what you think can be done, should be done as far as improving safety on Connecticut Avenue, and what the council should be focused on as part of that. Artie, why don't you start with
Sure. Yeah. What was the question again? Sorry.
Connecticut Avenue.
Connecticut Avenue.
What about it specifically, or what we would do about
what
it?
what you think can be done to improve it? What the council's role should be in that? And
all right. So I have been involved through my day job in the Connecticut Avenue corridor study, and the multiple municipalities that are taking views on what should and should not happen. And beyond the Connecticut Ave study, I've gone to dozens again of these meetings with communities, and I understand how emotional these battles get with traffic safety. Unlike the stormwater, property can be replaced, but kids running around, elderly, pets. I've gone to neighborhoods and I've seen the acrimony that comes from these kinds of fights. And oftentimes the community members don't want to listen to what the engineers have to say, and the engineers don't want to listen to what they have to say. The community members, one particular one that still sticks with me today is there was a community that was complaining that people would run the stop sign in their neighborhood. And so they got their delegates and senators involved, and they came out, we called SHA, and they came out and did a study and looked at it. And ultimately SHA's decision was to remove the stop sign entirely. And the neighborhood, as you can imagine, was not happy with this, but the justification was it comes right after a hill and the stop sign's there. And they did a study, and a significant number of people were running the stop sign. Whether they don't see it, they don't care. The community wants a police officer to be sitting there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we don't have the resources for every single stop sign in every single community to have police patrol. And they came to the conclusion that it's safer to remove the stop sign because the pedestrians aren't going to look and see a stop sign and assume that the car is going to stop. And that will lead to fewer fatalities, fewer injuries. And the communities didn't want to hear about it. The point I'm making is it's a nuanced issue. And I would defer to what the engineers have to say on how to improve Connecticut Ave. It's easy to put cameras up there and sure it'll raise some money, some revenue, but will that really slow people down? You know, we all live here. We know where the cameras are. Does that really slow us down once we get out of view of the cameras? You know, we can make the lanes narrower, and the justification for that is that, I'm sorry, was that the 15-second warning? No? Okay.
No, keep going, keep
Yeah,
going.
okay. Yeah, the justification for lane narrowing is that it will slow people down, but it will lead to greater accidents. Just the accidents won't be as serious because it'll be fender benders type. And so that's a trade-off we're willing to make. Greater number of accidents, fewer fatalities and serious injuries. Again, it's a very complicated issue, and if elected, you know, I look forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting down to it, but there is no silver bullet. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you that speed cameras or lane narrowing or hawk signals or whatever, you know, one thing is not going to solve this issue. We have a highway running through our community, and we need to take steps to address the speeding problem, certainly, but there is no, I'm not a believer in just putting a speed camera and that will solve our problems, although I do think the town should get some money for it. But that's it.
Okay.
Ronnie?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the needs analysis report and some of the, you know, near, mid, and long-term strategies for the corridor. I agree with the, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the designation of high visibility crosswalks throughout the corridor. Obviously, I'll say selfishly from the perspective as a town resident, right, I was excited to learn that the stoplight at Saul and Connecticut was one of the I think two first immediate recommendations or near-term strategies that at the time of the report had already begun work or slated to begin work shortly. But I agree with Artie in that it's a complex issue, balancing the interest of pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. But I think that the trajectory of the, you know, kind of needs analysis report and the planned crosswalks and taking into account still the initial considerations and different interests that the report made sense. And I guess as a, you know, prospective council member, I think it's advocating for the interests and inequities for the portions of the corridor that obviously run through Chevy Chase View. So.
Great. As far as the parts of Chevy Chase View outside of Connecticut Avenue, are there any thoughts you have on improving walkability or safety issues that might contribute to the non-Connecticut Avenue portions of the town, you know, being a better place to walk, bike, etc.?
Yeah, when I think about the town, obviously the other, you know, binding element is or parallel side is Cedar, and I think that there's been a lot of improvements to Cedar over the year, and the crosswalk that have been put in there. I think a lot of the work that's been done on Summit, on the, you know, main thoroughfare of the town. There's obviously been improvements there as well with the sidewalk and reconstruction work there. But yes, Cedar, I guess, would be the other focus area. But I don't think, yeah, I think Connecticut Avenue is obviously the major one. Yeah, I walked down Connecticut Avenue to get here, and certainly made sure to you know, turn on Franklin before the extra block to Everett. Folks are going fast down Connecticut Avenue. So I think that I mean, it's clear that is the focus. And I think one thing I didn't mention in prior answers, the you know, just the accident that happened, I think it was last November on Connecticut Avenue. It's just our latest, but a very recent, you know, example of the severity of that issue. So yeah, I'll pause there.
Okay, Artie?
I truthfully, I think this is a very walkable neighborhood compared to where I've been in the past. The streets are nice and wide. You know, I'm in support of more sidewalks, but not at the, I don't know where the the town right away, the county right away, what land is available, but it's a fairly walkable community right now. It's just the issue is getting across Connecticut to really connect the community. I don't know if a pedestrian walkway has been considered. I don't even know if that's in the realm of possibility, but things of that nature, more sidewalks, just reducing the speed on our streets. You know, I think it's safe to walk on our streets right now, and hopefully it can stay that way going forward.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the police presence in the town? If it's enough, if it's too much, if we should be getting more, does it help? And, you know, what are your thoughts on the town expending, you know, our taxpayer money on having a police presence as we've done for a number of years, and the level of that presence?
Is that me?
Yeah. start
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. I don't know if by police presence you mean the people that are mounting the speed sensors on the lights. Is that the
No,
police
not in
doing that?
Connecticut, can have them more within the town.
Right. I think I read about Franklin. There was people complaining about speeding, so they put up a sensor up there
Okay.
to see. I don't know if was that the police or maybe that was
Yeah,
some third
I'm
party.
more talking about the patrol car, I think is what I was focused on. I know.
Okay, for speeding or just crime in
Anything,
general?
speeding,
Yeah, I
running-
mean,
running stop signs, just
yeah.
neighborhood safety, anything. you think
Certainly
would
if
help.
there, I didn't know we had to pay the police to get out of here. If there's an issue, yeah, we call the police, they don't come, okay, we'll get someone, you know, off duty to sit there or on duty preferably. And yeah, I'm not opposed to more police presence, but quite frankly, we have a pretty safe neighborhood. It's the speeding, you know, we're lucky that that's our problem, is that walking around isn't as pleasant as it could be, but I wouldn't be opposed outright to more police presence, no, but also I don't think, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. That's a tough issue there.
Yeah, I'm aware of the resources that, or the fact that the town allocates resources for additional policing for the town. Candidly, I as a resident, I find the town to be very, very safe. I've seen a select few instances of, you know, mention on a listserv or other communications of, you know, vehicle break-in, or but they're relatively few and far between, at least that I'm aware of. But I believe that the town is pretty safe, absent any like additional information or understanding. I think that the current resourcing for policing in the neighborhood is sufficient, but certainly, yeah, something to, if there's other reasons or case otherwise, that council should obviously take that into consideration. I just don't know enough otherwise. So.
Okay. We had a question about streetlights. I don't know if you're familiar with the issue, but the town is considering purchasing the streetlights rather than having Pepco own them. And do you have any views on whether that's advisable or not, or if you're familiar at all with that issue?
Yeah, I think that the streetlight issue is I think it is like pending legislation related to tariffs on the street lighting, and that legislation I believe is slated to not go through. But I think that from the perspective of the town and the town council, that it's an opportunity to potentially address some of the tariffs that have been somewhat of a long-standing issue for the town. So I think that yeah, certainly an opportunity for the town council, town manager to advocate for, you know, specifically related to those tariffs, and the town only paying for, see, the energy that it's actually using, the services that are being provided to the town for those streetlights.
Okay. Thanks. Artie?
So my understanding of the issue is the town paid for these lights about in 2003, I believe, and they paid for them, and Pepco put them up on their poles. The town, I mean, paid for them, and Pepco put them up, and now Pepco has a push for LED lighting, which is great for climate change and all that. But these lights still work. So Pepco has is basically trying to force the town to pay $7,500 for a study to determine the number of lights and where they are when we have that information already. And so Pepco's, and they're the reason, Pepco and other utilities, why that bill in the legislature didn't pass. And so if I was a council member, I'd take a more aggressive approach against Pepco. I don't know. We have some leverage here. Maybe threaten to go solar, or maybe threaten to get municipal broadband. I don't know, something that will affect their bottom line and make them back down. I don't know. But I certainly don't think we should pay them $7,500 for something we already know. And I think the life of the current bulbs or the lights that we have is another 5-10 years. So there's, and I think Pepco's installation of these LEDs is over a span of time ending in, I don't know, 5 years. So I think the town has asked them to put us on the end of the schedule because our lights will probably last until then. So that would be my tactic is getting tough with Pepco, tougher than, yeah.
We had kind of a factual question from a resident. They want to know how many town council meetings each of you have attended. Either because you had business before them or just out of general interest and you had nothing to do that night and just wandered down to the church.
You're up.
Hey, I'll lie if you lie.
Yeah. Good.
I have been to every town council meeting for the last 2 whole months. I will say that on the
Have you?
record.
Okay. Well,
Okay, consecutive. Okay,
Sure.
those are 2 meetings.
okay.
And I was the only one here, except for, forgot the gentleman's name in last month, but 2 meetings, that's my answer. But I've only been here 6 months, 7 months, so.
It's a good percentage.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's much better than mine. Yeah, I have not been to any town council meetings to date.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I was on the council for a while, and the only council meeting I went to before then was when we had a permit application before the town. But I guess there are issues that come up where, people want to come and hear what's going on. So we'll leave it at that. Another question we have is about trees. They've been an area of concern in the town for a long time, and both in the right of way where the town has more responsibility and regulating removal on private property. And the question is, what are your thoughts on both right of way trees and private property trees? Your philosophy, your thoughts, regulating them, not regulating them?
Yep. So I understand the fact that the town contracts the service provider for trimming of trees and doing their best with respect to right away and keeping the overall look and feel of the neighborhood what it is. I think in terms of right away, I think that the town does well with the annual service that they receive from the service provider there. You obviously have to balance that maintenance work and trimming of the trees with the competing interests of it was in the Stormwater Management Committee report, the significant reductions in the amount of trees throughout Chevy Chase View. So would like to see our trees continue. But yeah, obviously have to have the maintenance and upkeep of the tree trimming work that happens repeatedly. So in terms of right of way, I think that's in the category of general maintenance and ensuring that trees get trimmed appropriately so that right of way is maintained.
Artie?
Would anyone come out and say they're anti-tree?
Yeah,
You know, they say,
right,
anti-tree?
exactly.
No, I love trees. I would say regarding the public-private, I guess, issue, on the public side, yeah, I would like to see more trees in the neighborhood. I understand as people want to renovate their homes, they may have to get rid of a tree. I think that should be their right, but at the same time, I think trees are good for the stormwater management, just generally erosion. They're good for climate change, beyond the carbon capture, they're keeping the shade is keeping our homes cooler. We're using less energy. But I would like to see more trees. And I know that doesn't the county have something? If you cut a tree down, you got to either plant another one or you got to pay for them to plant it somewhere down the road, something like that. I'm supportive of that. Trees are good.
Non-controversial, I think, that statement.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Do you support any changes in how the town council operates or handles new ordinances? Anything based on your observations, either attending meetings, reading the minutes, anything you think the town council should do differently?
Is this one me?
We'll start with you, Artie.
Okay, yes. In preparation for this, I read in detail the 3 years of the town's monthly meeting minutes. That was by far the most entertaining part of my reading. Do I support the current way that they pass town ordinances, which is to say they discuss, I guess, since the changes? Yes, I support, they have a open public comment period and then they vote on it during the next meeting. So I think it gives the town residents ample time to respond, but clearly, I don't know, 20% of residents to push a referendum, it seems high to me because I don't know, we got a fraction of a percent of the residents here. I don't know. I think it's important to advocate for the people that are not in the room, keep their interests in mind. And I think the council does a good job of that. So I do agree with the town council's current ordinance passing procedure. That was even the question. I'm lost now.
I certainly agree with the workings of the town council and how that is handled to date. I guess what comes to mind, I mentioned it previously, that was the communication, right, and the grassroots, local government and awareness of the town residents and the issues impacting them in turn draws more engagement and interest in these topics. So some of those fundamental communications to break down the understanding of issues and why it matters to town residents increases participation. So really not like a procedural change, but maybe the approach of increasing awareness for town residents into the workings of the council and what it means to them.
So related to that, and I think Tommy, you touched on that. What do you think would be the best ways to get more residents engaged in town issues?
Yeah, it's the overall kind of communication strategy. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but harnessing technology and the technology landscape is changing. I definitely believe there's instances of too much of it, working in front of a laptop all day, every day, and running a small cybersecurity services company. I take, plenty of time away from laptop and not connected and, phone off. And I believe in instances of too much technology. I don't have, home connected devices or anything like that. But, in terms of the council and reaching residents, there are some pretty fundamental instances of the use of technology to quickly reach residents and help in that communication of town issues. And like I said, what it means to residents and increasing their participation, involvement, engagement in the issues affecting our community.
Artie?
So on the engagement issue, I'm gonna quote something I heard at the last council meeting. I think it was Ron Bolt, the attorney, was talking because he does other towns too. He's the counsel for them. not having people engaged or out there means that the council is doing a good job. You know, if people were out here and actually engaged, and what do we need a council for? Let's vote by direct democracy. You know, if the council does a good job, we don't really need engagement. People tend to get engaged when they're angry about something like the ordinance procedure or you know, stormwater or something that affects them personally. But otherwise, they're not engaged because they trust the council is doing a good job. And I would hope to continue that tradition.
Great. We had a follow-up question came in about trees. Would you support incentives to support planting and retaining trees on private property? Artie?
Does that mean? Oh, yes. Again, fully in support of trees. Okay. I can't state this enough. I am fully in support of this. I have no anti-tree sentiment here. Yeah, no, certainly. I think, I mean, if a homeowner doesn't want trees or they're on the fence, then certainly an incentive would help. And planting a tree, it helps everyone. It helps the animals. It helps everyone. So yes, I would support a private incentive for tree planting.
Yeah. So like Artie, team tree, certainly. I guess that the answer to that question is weighing those incentives against the other, you know, competing priorities or interests of the town. So not to say I don't know, but it would certainly have to be weighed against what isn't getting done if you provide incentives for those that are planting trees. It's certainly an interesting idea, thought, concept to reward those contributing to, you know, green infrastructure and solving, you know, addressing other pressing issues. It would just have to be weighed against what else can't get done because of that.
Great. Well, I just have one more question, unless we have any more coming in. So the last question before we let you sum up is, what would you like to see different in Chevy Chase View, and how would you accomplish this? Tom, we'll start with you.
Yeah, and I think I touched on it a lot with the communications, that the power of, you know, grassroots government. I think that the state of the town as a municipality is so important in recognizing and appreciating the services that we receive because of the status as a municipality. It's something that I've come to appreciate. So the fact that we're residents of the community, that we live in the community, that we're connected with, you know, our neighbors, allows for the unique services that benefit town residents live better than others could provide it. So yeah, I'll just get back to that communication with town residents, ultimately to maximize the value and benefit of the services that they receive from their town.
Okay. Artie?
I think the town council does an outstanding job. Thank you to the members in attendance here tonight. But just mainly it's the Connecticut Ave issue. I don't want to beat the dead horse or anything, but it is a major issue. It's a dividing highway between our community, and it really causes stress to pedestrians, to drivers. It's not really safe in the car, getting on or off crossing Connecticut. So yeah, how I would go about that, I think it's bigger than Chevy Chase View. It's bigger than all the Chevy Chases. You know, it's a corridor. So it would need to come from the county and state legislators. So some sort of action on their part in addition to what we're doing. So we would work with all of the municipalities that are affected and come up with some sort of plan.
Great. Well, we're at the end of our questions now, but I'd like to give you each a couple of minutes just to sum up why you think residents should vote for you. Tommy, why don't we start with you?
Okay, so, you know, first and foremost, I appreciate the, you know, nomination and opportunity to Artie, your work at the state level is of course commendable, and as a you know, lifelong Maryland resident, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think that while Paula's not here this evening, I think the fact that we have 3 nominees ready, willing, and able to serve the town council kind of speaks volumes about the town itself. What I enjoyed most about Chevy Chase View is a lot of the pride that residents have in it. I remember, shortly after moving to Chevy Chase View, I came across a publication called the Chronicles of Chevy Chase View. And it's a report that was published in 1983, and probably, a little interesting that I've read this, but it's published in 1983, and it documents a lot of the history of the town. And it's covers kind of the early pioneers that settled in the area and worked for things like passable streets and water supply and mail delivery. 6 pages of it are actually dedicated to the town council and how it's evolved over the years, from initially being called the Citizens Committee. But you can tell in reading that publication how much pride there is in the town. Personally, I take a lot of pride in it. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to potentially contribute to it. And certainly would work to again maximize the value of the services that are provided to residents, and work to ensure the town's prosperity for generations to come. So thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Artie?
Yeah, I just want to thank the nominating committee, Tommy, this guy, so handsome, for coming out here, for doing this, because it is important. All government is local, and I do plan on staying at this neighborhood for a while. I remember when I first moved in, not too long ago, some guy came up and took my trash down, and I figured I made it. This is it. I can hang it up here. This is where I'm retiring. This is it. But it is, in a more serious note, we have some issues. We're fortunate that they're not the type of issues that other municipalities much larger than ours face, but we do have issues, and I'm ready to roll my sleeves up with Tommy or with Paula or whoever it may be to get things done. And appreciate you guys out there tonight and everyone who came out here tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for doing this tonight. Appreciate it. A couple other people we want to thank are the church for allowing us to use their facilities here. I want to thank Melissa Amold and her team from Montgomery Municipal Cable for providing the hybrid Zoom broadcast for us. I'd like to thank Stacy and Don, my fellow nomination committee members, and Julie, of course, who put this whole thing together. Really appreciate your help. And thanks to all you residents who came today and those who are participating online. Candidates, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. Just a reminder, the election is next Thursday, May 12th. Again, you can vote in person from 7 to 9 here at the church, or if that's not convenient, you can pick up an absentee ballot up until 6 o'clock on next Wednesday, the 11th. With that, I think we're all done. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.